The night I realized my life was about to change forever didn't begin with a storm or a dramatic explosion. It began with something far quieter. A shift in the air I couldn't quite name. Grief teaches you to sense disturbances before they happen, like your heart develops a second pair of ears. Ever since my mom, Emily, passed away 2 years earlier, the house had grown a kind of stillness, soft, fragile, easy to disturb. But that evening, when I stepped inside and saw my dad, Richard, waiting for me in the kitchen with a nervous smile, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Unease. He was stirring tea, humming an old tune he used to sing to her. Seeing him like that always tugged at something in me. We were really trying to rebuild a life that made sense. But his smile that day wasn't the familiar one. It held a sharp edge. "I have someone I want you to meet," he said. I barely had time to process it before she stepped into the room. Vanessa. Her presence filled the space instantly, elegant, tall. The kind of beauty that didn't ask for attention but demanded it anyway. Her eyes were an icy shade of green, too sharp to feel warm, too observant to be casual. She introduced herself with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I'd met plenty of my dad's colleagues, acquaintances, classmates' parents. This was different. There was a deliberate softness in her voice, like she'd practiced it, and somehow, in the span of just a few minutes, she made the kitchen feel cramped. I tried to push away the uneasiness. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe I was just being protective. Losing a parent does that to you. It makes every stranger feel like an intruder. But when Richard cleared his throat at dinner and said, "We're getting married next month," I felt the ground shift beneath me. Married? To a woman I'd known for less than 10 minutes? I remember staring at him, waiting for the punchline. It didn't come. Instead, Vanessa placed her hand softly over his, her nails perfectly manicured, her smile flawless. "I hope we can get to know each other," she said warmly. But the moment Richard looked away, her gaze changed flat, assessing, almost predatory. It made my stomach tighten. The wedding came faster than I was ready for. A small ceremony in our backyard, fairy lights strung overhead, people I barely recognized, shaking my hand like they knew me. I watched Richard make promises to a woman I didn't trust, his happiness almost painful to look at. Losing my mom had aged him in ways he tried to hide. Vanessa seemed to rewind the clock for him. I wanted to be happy for him. I really did. But something inside me refused. When she moved in, the house changed overnight. She rearranged everything: bookshelves, cupboards, living room furniture. She said it was to create new energy. But it felt like she was erasing every trace of Emily. Even the framed photos disappeared, quietly, one by one. I asked where they went. She gave me a smile so sweet it made my skin crawl. "Some memories hold people back," she said. "We don't need that." Her behavior toward me blurred lines I wasn't prepared for. She'd knock on my door late at night to check on me. She'd stand too close in the hallway. Her hand would linger a little too long on my back, her compliments just a little too pointed. And always when Richard wasn't looking. I started avoiding home. I stayed late at school, at friends' places, anywhere but inside those shifting walls. Yet no matter how much distance I tried to create, she always seemed to find a way to close it, like she wanted something from me. Something she couldn't say aloud. One night, I came home later than usual. The lights were off except for a faint glow from the kitchen. I walked in and stopped cold. Vanessa sat at the table in a silky robe, a glass of wine between her fingers, her eyes locking onto mine like she'd been waiting. "You're home late," she murmured. I mumbled something about homework, trying to back away. But she rose gracefully, stepping toward me like a shadow with intention. She placed her hand on my chest, slow, deliberate. Her voice dropped into something nearly intimate. "You look so much like your father did when he was younger." My breath caught. Every instinct screamed at me to move, but I was frozen. Then, the front door unlocked. Richard was home early. Vanessa stepped back instantly, smile flipping back into innocence as if nothing had happened. But I knew, and now, I was scared. After that night in the kitchen, something inside me shifted. Fear has a way of sharpening your senses, making you notice things you'd normally ignore. Suddenly, every small gesture from Vanessa felt loaded. Every glance held a hidden meaning. Every smile stretched just a little too long. And worst of all, Richard still saw none of it. To him, she was attentive, caring, the perfect companion. Watching him trust her so completely made my chest feel heavy with a pressure I didn't know how to relieve. I started keeping my distance. I'd leave early and come home late, eating dinner at friends' houses or lingering at the library until the lights flickered off. But every time I returned, she was there waiting, watching, present in a way that felt intentional. Sometimes she'd ask where I'd been, her voice soft, but her eyes sharp. Other times she wouldn't say anything at all, just stare long enough to make me feel like I was being measured for something I didn't understand. The worst moments were the ones that felt almost normal. When she sat beside Richard, laughing at his jokes, touching his arm gently, playing the role of the affectionate wife flawlessly. If anyone else walked into our home, they'd think she was warm, loving, supportive. They'd never see how her expression changed the second his back was turned, like she slipped out of one skin and into another. It was the kind of duplicity that made you question your own mind. But then the subtle things grew bolder. One evening I walked past the living room and found her on the phone. She didn't notice I was there, not at first. Her voice was low, urgent. "No, I told you, he's resisting. He doesn't trust me yet." She paused, listening. "Of course I'm trying. But he's careful." Before I could hear more, the floorboard creaked beneath my foot. She whipped around instantly, her expression hardening before she replaced it with a smile. "Eavesdropping?" she asked sweetly. I didn't answer. She didn't need me to. That was the moment I knew I needed proof. Something real, something undeniable. Because words weren't going to be enough. Richard loved her, maybe blindly, maybe desperately, but he loved her. And love can be the cruelest kind of blindness. So I started documenting everything. Audio, clips, photos, notes. Moments that felt off, interactions that crossed lines, strange messages she left open on her laptop, little things she didn't realize I noticed. I kept it all hidden under the loose floorboard in my room. Every day I added more. Every day the knot in my stomach grew tighter. And then came the night everything snapped. I came home from a group study session and immediately sensed something was wrong. The house was too quiet, too still. My bedroom door was slightly open. I never left it that way. My heart slammed against my ribs as I pushed it wider, and there she was, Vanessa, standing at my dresser. My drawers open, my journal in her hands. She didn't flinch, didn't apologize, didn't pretend. She simply closed the journal and looked at me with a coldness so sharp it felt like it cut through my skin. "You have secrets," she said quietly, "and I need to know them." It was the certainty in her voice that terrified me, the way she said need, not want. That was the moment I realized this wasn't obsession. It was possession. She wanted control over me the way she had over Richard. She stepped toward me, her posture calm, calculated. "You think you can hide from me in your own home?" My breath quickened. For a split second I thought she might actually hurt me. But fear has a strange way of igniting courage. "No," I said, "but I can make sure you don't hurt us anymore." For the first time, her expression slipped, and that was enough. I took everything, my recordings, the photos, the notes, and brought them straight to Richard. My hands were shaking as I played the audio. Showed him the images, told him everything I had been too afraid to say. He didn't speak at first, didn't blink. He just sat there, pale, trembling, staring at the woman he thought he loved in a way that made my chest ache. Finally, he whispered, "I wanted to believe she helped me heal." His voice cracked. "But she was using me to get to you." He filed for divorce the next morning. But Vanessa didn't go quietly. She twisted stories, painted me as manipulative, tried to make Richard doubt his own son. She threatened lawsuits, public exposure, called my school, even tried to accuse me of things that could have ruined my life. But truth has a way of shining through, even when people try to bury it. And my evidence was too strong to break. Eventually, she left. Not defeated, but exposed. Life didn't snap back to normal. It took years for the tension in our home to settle, for Richard and me to rebuild the trust that fear had cracked open. We still don't talk about Vanessa. We don't have to. The silence between us holds that chapter in place. What I learned is simple but brutal. Not everyone who enters your life comes with good intentions. Some wear masks so perfect you don't see the danger until it's already in your home. And sometimes, the greatest threats are the ones who pretend to love you.